Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I am Inquisitor Caveat Ventus, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is my report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee, Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Laura Elizabeth as Lyric, and Tyler Hewitt as Alto. My report shows that the Inquisitorial Band have engaged with the xenos predators of Tren and found survivors. Lyric was struck down by monster cats and is in critical condition. Alto is terrified, and Valentyne found survivors and only suffered light wounds. Can the band keep Lyric alive and find a way off-world? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From a purchase order for Galen's Garden on the planet Tren in system Galen's Excellence, currently known as B83. Medkits? Why would we need that many medkits? We need lunchboxes. Kids like lunchboxes. They don't care about medkits. Lyric, it is getting harder to focus on just the pain. But every so often, you think you can hear dear sweet Alto's worried voice. And you know this kid's expiry date is like probably a few hours from yours. You know?
Yeah.
Like left to his own devices, this is how it goes down. And in this kind of void, you remember one of Kel's harder lessons, which was just was one of the days where she was looking a bit rough. It was not long before she was clearly kind of past her prime as a bounty hunter. And even though she still would disappear for mysterious jobs, which you now understand were for the Inquisition, as well as other Imperial contracts, there comes a moment, and it's true of dancers, it's true of fighters, where you realize that even though your brain still has it and you still know the moves, your body's starting to break down. This is like particularly bad for like ballet dancers, where they're just like, oh no, okay, nope, it's over, like up and over. Or for boxers, where suddenly they're going down a lot more. And for her, you could tell that she'd realized that it wouldn't take much. She had to be extra good in order to stay up. And as it turned out, it wasn't really her fault when she died. It was more, how to put this politely, yours. But she was explaining one day as she was trying to pop a dislocated finger back into its socket, that there comes a point where it doesn't really matter how tough you are, you're going to go. You're going to lose. Everyone loses someday, and that's how fights work. And that's fine if it's just you, but the minute you have someone relying on you, it means something else to die. And she says this is one of the few times that, for the way you and she talked, that she actually, this is about as emotional as she got with you, other than like anger. But you could tell that she was trying to impart to you how scared she was about what would happen to the two of you when she died. And that now that she was starting to see the reality of that encroaching, she was in a way kind of trying to justify the additional harshness to her training for you. And I think as someone who, generally speaking, has never really considered that there's a fight she could lose, it was a harsh lesson, but also one that came into stark contrast when you became Alto's kind of sole protector. So even though the pain is fading as your consciousness is, you still hear the sound of his voice, and it scares you enough to stay alive. Alto, you're looking down at your sister, who is incredibly pale, and it's actually one of the first times that you can remember that she actually looks at peace. Her face, there's no tension to her face or her shoulders or her muscles, and it looks bad on her.
Yeah.
It's like someone stretched a skin suit, like an Edgar suit, I don't know why we're on Men in Black today, but we are, over her skeleton. It almost looks like a mask.
Yeah, Lyric scowls in her sleep. Like, this is...
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure like her teeth are flat from the grinding.
Yes.
But instead there's something I think so horrible to someone being fully limp. And just the fact that she's completely out. Lyric, what do you think's going through your head right now? Alto. Sorry, I meant Alto.
Sorry.
You both picked music names. I know what's going through Lyric's head. I just told her. Alto, what's going through your head?
I think Alto blames himself. I think Lyric said he shouldn't have gone ahead, right? He's dwelling on that. And then he did, and he got pinned, and she tried to save him and paid for it, and he couldn't save her. So I think he's just really internalizing that series of events and really blaming himself. I think out loud, Lyric hearing Alto's voice he's just saying like, I'm sorry over and over again. And just like, please don't die. Just constantly. Yeah. Just like over her being like, I'm sorry, Lyric. I'm so sorry. Please hold on. Please. It's going to be okay. I'm so sorry. Just over and over again.
Cool. So in the front seat, with Vigata, Valentyne, you size this guy up, and while he certainly seems to be wearing Arbiter's armor, or at least remnants of it, there's nothing in his tone or demeanor that screams Adeptus Arbites to you. It almost,
and generally speaking, those kind of guys are a type, and this is not the type.
You get almost a sense of pageantry, if that makes sense. He's got, as you've been talking, he's got some of the lingo down, but as I think we've discussed, like there are a lot of very sacred things in the 40K universe, and there's a lot of sort of sacred concepts. And he seems to be able to pay lip service to them, but doesn't quite seem to have the fervor that usually follows them. Like, he talks about the Emperor, but he doesn't talk about the Emperor the way you should talk about the Emperor. And the fact that he doesn't really know anything about the Inquisition is strange. He has fully like committed himself to your orders. Like that's not a question, but there's something off about all of this.
Yeah, we probably don't need to spend a half hour role playing this, but if we want to deal with the idea of the conversation, I think where Valentyne would be going is he'd start asking about like what happened with the world, what happened with them, because he'd mentioned that he didn't know it all. And at the same time, he'd be trying to pick up information and see what doesn't check out. Because if there's something off, there might even be something off within the story. He's kind of always got a danger sense, which is like meeting people on a world. There are weird aliens that shouldn't be here. Something is wrong. I need to leave.
Can you roll me, I think I would say this is probably either a vigilance or a perception.
I'll go with perception because I am much better at that. Unsurprisingly, as an interrogator turned inquisitor, I thought he might be good at perception.
Yeah, that's that tracks. That tracks for me too. I'm gonna say this is a just a 1 purple, largely because I don't think you don't get the sense he's being duplicitous at all. He's given it to you pretty straight. That said, due to the strangeness of it and the post-combat shock, I'm going to spend a story point to up that. So we're now sitting at 3 and 3. So it'll be a 1 red.
Sorry, you're saying it's 2 purple, 1 red?
No, sorry, I'm saying it's straight up one red.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on that. He's not being duplicitous, so it's having a hard time sorting it. In fact, like it's weirdly one of those things that only really has difficulty because you're trying to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like also there's always a chance that like if something evil's happening, he doesn't know. So it's a lot of like things within this.
Yes,
I've got 1 success and 3 advantage.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So Vigata explains that Galen's Garden was built as a nature preserve and kind of tourist destination here on Tren, and that the goal was to create a place where the rest of the people in the Galen sector would be able to come or the system rather, not sector. The Galen system would be able to come and kind of see the wondrous things that Administratum Tremaine was studying. And it seems to you from this, Tremaine was likely a low-grade heretic in the way that a lot of... This is pretty common in the Imperium because it just is so vast that there's all sorts of weird, like, local magistrates and other people who have very heretical ideas. In this particular instance, Tremaine was clearly enamored of the xenos, which is something that is generally frowned upon by the Imperium. Valentyne, I don't know that you have any particular, like, specific personal issues with the xenos as much. You're kind of more of a chaos guy, right?
Well, yeah, I think he would have been Ordo Malleus with like his knowledge and what's going on, which means he's specifically like demon hunter, cult hunter, like that kind of thing. He's more concerned with heresy and direct traitors. He'd be aware of xenos and aware of the hereticus. Like he's not totally clueless. I don't think he has a particular like hard on for alien hunting, other than by due course kill them all and kill people who deal with them. But sometimes they can be useful. You might need to have a conversation. You might need to make a trade.
Yeah. The sort of shades of gray I kind of like that 40K often dodges in sort of the broad strokes, but a lot of the sort of smaller books and writers have talked about is just the idea that like, yes, the edict is kill all the xenos, but that's also so broad that I think it's like, I mean, they're aliens. They're out there doing their thing. It's not the same as summoning demons from the warp plane that will also fuck up aliens. Like,
yeah, I think he'd be like Ealdari and their various factions are all sort of like respected enemies. Like sort of with the Tau, there's like a truce there. Kill them if you can, but if you might be able to use them. Orcs are just too dumb to deal with, so they're literally just like a weird plague. Necrons to the death. Sure, like there'd be Tyranids to the death, but yeah.
I think I was more specifically meaning things like the Eldar, where it's just kind of like, I mean, chaos fucks up those xenos. So, like, I think in your hierarchy, it's like, chaos the worst. Xenos, like, maybe bad, but, like, also they can be corrupted by chaos, ergo, chaos.
Yeah, take them out, but really enemy of my enemy can be my friend.
Right, great.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that as the baseline. I just wanted to kind of set that early because, you know, it's... Always want to make sure that we're playing interesting side areas of the incredibly rigid Imperium dogma that none of us would want to live as humans in the real world. So cool, great. Tremaine sounds vaguely heretical in that he clearly saw value in the xenos that you, I think, can also kind of appreciate from a practical value. That said, the idea of a zoo or like a nature preserve is like a tremendously bizarre luxury, because like, why would you spend resources on this? What the fuck?
He'd be an interesting guy to have dinner with, followed by shooting him in the head.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, when the asteroid impacted and the planet was knocked off course, it had been planned for. It didn't take out the dome. Like, everything was actually done pretty cleverly. But as, you know, the continued incursions and everything else occurred and contact was cut off gradually, similar to Galen's glory back on Vermeer, people just stopped with the upkeep. They weren't receiving supplies anymore. Ships weren't arriving anymore. They were holding up okay until the verdict came down from the Lords of Terra. And the original Adeptus Arbites showed up. So the original guy was known as no, none of those names work. We'll say Vigo Tala.
Okay.
And when Vigo arrived, it was with kind of the authority of the Imperium to execute Philos Tremaine for heresy. And for what the Lords of Terra had caught wind of was experimentation with xenos. Tala hunted Tremaine deep into the nature preserve, and by all accounts, based on what the remaining survivors on Tren say, Vigo returned victorious, having killed Tremaine, but in the process, the dome was heavily damaged. The creatures were set loose, and soon the dome itself collapsed, and chaos reigned. So the people of Tren now are the descendants of those who lived, who were basically staff, and some of the early visitors to Galen's Garden. And what you find with your dice roll there is that Horatio Vegata is the inheritor of the title of arbitrator, which you realize now they're basically handing down as a mantle, because with the death of the administratum, the arbitrator has basically become the leader and defender of these people, because he showed up and killed their system, so he's the system now. So he is like several generations removed from the thing, and from the sounds of things, it's almost like the Mandalorian culture. It's like you train under the previous arbitrator, and then you earn the title. But suddenly a lot of his verbiage and stuff starts to make sense, because this is a guy who is aping what he has heard previously, and it's become an oral tradition. It's not... He didn't train as an Arbites. He has been taught by the, apprentice to the 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 apprentice of an Arbites. But it sounds like there is a small kind of community that lives on this planet. They are, again, the descendants of the people who lived there before. And they've all dreamt of leaving. And Vegata gets particularly excited when he hits this. And he says, the arbitrator's ship was badly damaged upon its arrival. The asteroid incident they were still feeling the effects, and his trajectories were off. But if you have parts, we might actually be able to fix it. We might actually be able to finally leave.
Well, that does sound excellent, and that is overall our plan. But of course, first, step one, we need
Save
to
your friend.
receive
Absolutely.
medical care. Yes.
And then step 2, we get the fuck out of here. Sorry, fuck is a local term to this system. I don't know if you've encountered it.
I've heard some of it. I've heard it's positive or negative on another world and has a variety of meanings.
Excellent. Do you have should I be calling you Sir Inquisitor, Mr. Inquisitor, Lord Inquisitor, Inquisitor Esquire?
Lord Inquisitor would be fine.
Okay, well, thank you, Lord Inquisitor. And welcome to our village of Visitor Center. And he pulls the Jeep up in front of a massive visitor center from Jurassic Park that exists on this planet. So like a big kind of domed building, big epic stairs, but in horrible disrepair. So like it's, the dome is a bit cracked, but you can see it's been patched. Largely with sort of vines and other things, snowbanks up on either side, and sort of central doors. So he runs up ahead and kind of like pounds on the door and yells a code phrase. The doors open, and people in bright pink Hawaiian shirts come rushing out. And you can see that weirdly they're pink Hawaiian shirts to like the sleeve, and then the sleeve is like a green Hawaiian shirt. And they come rushing out, and they all kind of pick Lyric up and start rushing her inside. Alto, do you stop them? Do you go with them? What's your...
Alto would go with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I go with them too.
Yeah, I think we'll say the Inquisitor would follow as well, and he would it would seem like a generous gesture to let Alto move faster, but he would take the bag of all the equipment for the shuttle, not trusting Alto to not like leave it somewhere or let someone steal it.
Sure. So someone else gets in the Jeep and like kind of drives it around away from the entrance, and then just kind of as you look over your shoulder, Valentyne, you see them sweeping up the tracks, so that the exterior looks roughly untouched. And you're brought inside the visitor center. Inside, it is very much kind of almost like an ant colony style building. So like they've built little sort of hovels and sheds and that sort of thing throughout. If you play any of the Fallout games, it's I think it's Fallout 3. You go inside a museum, and it's just they turned every room into its own little kind of house or store, and that's kind of the vibe. It doesn't no longer what the outside might look like. It's still kind of somewhat what it was. Inside, it's very much like a shanty town. So Lyric is rushed to the infirmary, and as you come up, there's a woman who she's think like if Viola Davis had like a tremendously bad few years. So just like she's clearly tired, like just really kind of haggard. Still that sense of like command and presence, but clearly basically an overworked doctor. And she's got a massive, badly installed optical implant, so like a giant red eye, and is smoking like an old-timey 1930s cartoon cigar that's clearly hand-rolled, and the stench of this thing is just fucking horrific. Because there's definitely no tobacco here, so you're not sure what she's put in there, but it's clearly some kind of local plant. And as you come in, she kind of rises on a robotic leg that seems too long for her, and so she kind of walks with a bit of a like a slightly off kilter, and she goes, "Oh, wow, she's still breathing?" And she just takes a long drag off the cigar.
I think so. I hope so.
Oh, that's a pretty good start. And then she just pierces the cigar on like a hook on the wall, and kind of like hoists Lyric up onto a table, and starts to like adjust the eye, and immediately just starts calling for like various things. And people in Hawaiian shirts are like rushing forward and giving her stuff. She's wearing a heavy apron that seems to be made of what you would assume to be callop leather. But underneath, she is also wearing a giant pink Hawaiian shirt. So she starts going to work. Also, do you try and stay and help, or are you content to just leave the doctor to her work?
I try to stay and help, because just the overall like oeuvre he's getting does not necessarily inspire confidence in their prowess.
Lyric, forgive me. Do you have implants of any sort?
No.
Okay.
Oh, natural.
So they look. You can actually see that the doctor seems confused as she kind of like looks Lyric over kind of quickly, and then she looks up at you, Alto, and she's like, "Well, I was going to ask you if you're set to inherit any of her gear, but looks like you've got the gear and she doesn't. So
Yeah, no parts. She's all natural. Yeah.
that's it's very strange down here. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that your parents couldn't leave you more. That's a tough racket." And then she like leans over and puffs off the cigar on the hook and starts unstapling the staples. And she's like, "The Arbiter is many things, but a doctor, he is not." She starts like unpacking the wound. So Alto, this is basically. Weirdly, even though the circumstances are very different, it feels like kind of the backroom medicine that you remember from the Hive. It's people who are clearly good at what they do, if not, certainly not medical grade, but they know their shit.
Yeah.
So, she calls for boiled water. She starts like clearing the wounds and starts kind of going to work. What do you think you do?
If I'm asked to like hand tools or anything like that, I'm there for that. If they're using any kind of medical equipment that maybe after generations of being stranded at this resort has fallen into disrepair, I think Alto would also be doing like on the fly repairs to like make sure it operates at like optimal
okay. I like that a
efficiency.
lot. Yeah,
just that's how he helps.
No, that's fantastic. I like that a lot. Okay, so can you roll me a tech use then, please?
Yeah.
You see there is a disused kind of like maybe we'll say probably like diagnostic, like one of those big, what the fuck is the name? The beep beep machines.
Like a heart rate monitor?
Yeah, kind of like just a big rig that's sitting kind of disused in a corner. You can tell that it's clearly kept up, but it's not functional.
Yeah, I'll point to it and say, like, if I can get that running, would that help? Would that make things easier?
She gives you that spectacular deadpan Viola Davis, like Amanda Waller stare, and it's just like, yes, that would be tremendously helpful. It hasn't worked in 2 generations, but if you know how to get it working, we could save a lot of lives, maybe even hers.
I think at yes, he's like already looking like she's talking to the back of his head as he's like leaning into it and like starts to like pry off like the case
grabs
and
the cigar off the wall. She's like, "See, manners don't exist off world. That's good to know." Okay, and she goes back to work. Valentyne, what are you doing during this?
I think Valentyne would just like tap Alto on the shoulder and remind him that he has a microbead so they can talk if anything develops, good or bad.
Can you tell me what a microbead is? I think I have a general sense, but I'd like to know the specifics.
Yeah, so microbeads, they come in a variety of different formats, but essentially the idea is that it's a small shortwave radio that you can like either have in your ear, so it's like Bluetooth style, or it can be built into a collar, or it could be the like wrist thing that the CIA
Yeah, I was going to
uses,
say, do you have to put your finger to your ear to give away that you're a cop every time you use it?
Depends on the microbead would be the short answer, so maybe. But I think it's just a short range communicator. So it would be used by teams that are like going into a building. It's sort of like low level, like a SWAT team might use one. It's not going to help you long range, but you could do like a road convoy or be in multiple floors of a building and theoretically check in, that kind of thing.
So it's a Metal Gear codec. I like it. Let's carry on.
Yeah. And I think after that, because this is just going to kind of go the way it does, and it doesn't seem like anyone's openly evil, he'd want to see the arbitrator ship. And though he doesn't know a shitload about tech, Acri might, and he knows he can't get Alto to go with him, so he'd probably take Acri to go check out what's going on.
So Vegata takes you to kind of clearly his office that you can tell, again, has been kind of passed down. It was likely it would have been Tremaine's office back in the day. So it's actually like kind of a nice thing. There's a sort of a massive bay window that kind of looks out over the jungle. It's high up enough that you can get a bit of a view of kind of what's further west. And kind of out the window, you can see the snowstorm is continuing, but the visitor center seems to be kind of at the top of an incline. So it kind of moves down into a valley. There seems to be like a tramway set up. In the very, very far distance, you can just kind of make out almost like mountains. For us, like if you're like looking at mountains at distance, a sort of massive metallic structure that would likely be the launch site. So he brings you over to like a filing cabinet, and he just full on pulls out like this big sheaf of paper. And he basically unfolds some diagrams. And they're actually pretty solid diagrams, all things considered. And he kind of like tacks them up and gestures to them. And Valentyne, what you realize is that the ship... So he explains that the ship is at the launch site and that the arbitrator, Vigo, dismantled the astral line so that Tremaine couldn't escape. But also dismantled his own ship, which was already pretty badly damaged. Unfortunately, during the battle with Tremaine, he lost the rest of the ship parts. So basically, without what you've brought, there's very little way to get this up and going, but it is a ways away. It will be a proper voyage to get to it.
All right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
The diagrams are clearly the best they could do, but they were likely done like either by the arbitrator or someone else. So for you, these are actually pretty solid. These are what you would draw. They've just been passed down, and no one knows what to do with them. Sorry, go ahead.
Great. So I'd show it. I'd be like, I'm sorry, old friend. This may seem a bit strange for you, but these things are required. Just a moment. And I just haul the weird, like, spinal head Acri body and put it in a chair to look at the diagrams.
And he just goes, oh, cool, a servo skull. I've read about these.
Not entirely. This is a servo skull. And he whistles, and Eugene just flutters in.
And he goes, a servo skull. I've read about these. And then he just goes and like looks at it like a kid at a toy store.
All right, so Acri, if you could take a look at this here. Now, obviously, we've got two ships. We've got the Arbitrators, which is broken, and we have one that you might be more familiar with in terms of the Astral Line, which is also broken. My instinct would be if we could repair the Arbitrators, it sounds like it's probably more solid and better armed, but I don't know what would be possible. Here's a question just between you and I, new friend. What is the personnel capacity of either of these ships?
So the Astral Line can take, I think we said about 30. And basically, Acre's like, well, I mean, here's my professional diagnosis. And like, I'm not going to do it because it'll get annoying, but please do imagine that the voice is skipping constantly because like the voice box is terrible. And also that it sounds like a tinny 1930s radio. Because I feel like you like ripped up a set of headsets and used that to build it. So it's really bad voice work.
Yeah, it's not good.
But he's like, so as you determined from our less than comfortable descent into this here planet, the Astral Line ships are truly meant to go from one place to t'other, not necessarily go in different directions. Now, sounds like this fellow you're hunting isn't in this here system, so that it's possible with an Astral Line vessel, but you got two things to worry about. One, whatever sad sap motherfuckers plugged into that one might not be as cool and accommodating as yours truly. And two, if the Emperor's Glory, or Emperor's Hope rather, was any indication, it might not survive a trip outside the system. These are glorified buses, so my money'd be on the Arbitrator ship. Now, I should warn you, those vessels are not built to hold many. They're built to hold the Arbitrator, possibly a couple of buddies, and maybe some criminals. I only know because a couple pals of mine ended up in the back of one once, and they said it was a less than pleasant adventure. So, I would say that's your best bet. Probably a solid vehicle for a man such as yourself with a mission such as yours. And from an entirely personal perspective, I cannot wait to get my synapses on that ship. I used to fly things much more similar to that back in my day, and I'd be happy to do it again.
Yes, that makes sense to me as well. Also, the Arbitrator ship should be theoretically warp capable. We won't have a navigator, but perhaps there are beacons set up in this system or area where we could do a series of shorter-term jumps to get where we need to go. All right, so we need to repair that ship. And, of course, thank you, Emperor. Love these complications. Okay, so this is good. I'll take these. Horatio, my friend. How are we going to get to the launch pad? And I hate to say this, but time is of the essence. So the moment my companion is ready to go, we will need to make immediate exit.
I understand, my Lord Inquisitor. I must also say, please do not be embarrassed about time being of the essence. My people have dreamed of leaving this hellhole since before any of us were born. So we would also like to go. That would be great. The absolute fastest way is to take the tram. We want to avoid the valley anyway. The former administrator had some interesting ideas about the value of the xenos. The Callops we met were native to this planet, so that's dope. But well, he did some splicing. It's what got him in trouble with my predecessor, and as an arbitrator myself, with me. And he tries to look fierce, but mostly looks kind of sad. So my bet would be we take the tram as far as we can go to get us over the valley, and then from there it's a straight shot through. We keep a couple vehicles on the other side just in case we need to go over there for parts. We salvaged some things from the ships over the years, but based on how advanced your vehicle looked and the fact that you have 2 servo skulls, I'm pretty sure you got the chops.
All right, so another question here. How many colonists remain in this village that would be exiting the world in an ideal scenario?
There are, the current population count is 112.
All right. So here's what I'm thinking, my friend. And I just put Acri back in the bag and zip it up. I don't want him chiming in on this shit.
Yep.
So I'm thinking we should take an advanced party of the experts, the doctor, if you have someone who's the best with mechanics to assist, yourself. And then we could go in advance, prepare the ship, prepare any other materials in the area, make sure everything was ready to go, and then bring the rest of the colonists over so that they could be
not as exposed to the environment or any threats around the spaceport.
He crosses his arms over his chest and cocks his head at an angle. He just leans in. He's like, I think that's probably a pretty good idea, Lord Inquisitor. They're not professionals like you and me.
Exactly. We want to make sure they are as safe as they can possibly be before we bring them into a new environment. So, I trust you, my friend. I trust
Thank you, my Lord Inquisitor. And then he tries to do arm gestures to salute you, but he doesn't really know what they are.
Yeah, and I just take the back of his arm and pull it a little forwards, and then I clasp his forearm where it's one arm of the forearm. I put his around mine, and then I shake it once, and then I release him. And I'm like, I'm going to count you as a member of my band. So what I would like you to do is put together a list of, let's say, the 5 people you think would be of most use in either a combat scenario or if we were doing an insertion mission. So obviously there's a doctor, people like that, where if they were to be somewhere for a while, we don't know how long the repairs would take, they would be the ones who would keep the team alive.
Well, I mean, you're right. We would want a doctor because your friend's pretty hurt, but she looks kind of badass. So, let's bring the doctor to keep her safe. That's a good idea. Yeah, doctor comes with us for sure. Well, and you'll probably want Heinrich the Seer, because he's real good. He's got the sight. He can see things before they happen.
All right, I won't say no to that at the gate. Is there anyone else who's good with repairing things or mechanics?
Yeah. There's Bilek. She's the best mechanic we've got. She, won't come as any surprise that our vehicular stuff is getting a little bit rough these days. But hell, she's the one who keeps she's the one who manages to keep the tram running.
All right, that sounds pretty good. And then we've got you. So is there anyone else you would suggest from this lovely village of yours that could be of use over a slightly extended and dangerous period of time?
Well, I mean, you probably want... we'd have to leave a couple fighters behind, but
of course.
You probably want some of our best shooters, right?
Oh, agreed. Absolutely. As you could see, as things went down with the cats, I really do require more ranged and close combat specialists.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, obviously, we got to bring Fallox Deathblower. I know it probably sounds pretty quaint to such a metropolitan spaceman like yourself, but the title of Deathblower has been one that we've been passing down for generations. Once the ammo started running out, we got real good with dart weapons, and he's our top Deathblower.
All right, so that gives us a hunter, a seer, a mechanic, a doctor, and an arbitrator. I feel like this is an excellent team to move forward with.
All right, yeah. We'll have to leave behind the professor, Marianne, the skipper, but I think we've got a pretty good crew.
Yes.
At least for a 3-hour tour.
Do any of them have any immediate family that they would be worried about if they were to leave them, behind here while they were away?
I mean, we generally treat the whole village as family, and people have partners and siblings. I think Fallox is the only one who has kids. And he looks legitimately grim, and all mirth is kind of gone. He's like, it's a hard life here. We not many make it through.
I understand. All right. Well, if you want to notify those people that we'll be heading out once my companion has been treated, then I can go down and see how that is progressing.
Okay, great. I'll spread the word secretly. And then he reaches out, pulls your arm slightly closer, and then grasps it because he assumes that the pulling closer is part of it. And he goes, Lord Inquisitor.
Arbitrator. I will just give him this one.
And like that classic gif of Christopher Reeve doing the switch from Clark Kent to Superman, where he just takes off the glasses and then just stands up 2 inches taller. Vigato legitimately stands up taller. And again, even for all the kind of quaintness of this, he does seem very capable, just capable in a limited sense based on his circumstance. So he just kind of smiles to you and says, on it, your Mr. Lordship. Ship. And then off he goes. Meanwhile, Alto, Can you go ahead and roll me that tech use check, please? This is going to be 3 purple just because it's very old and it's missing some parts. You get the sense that whenever they're done using something, they repurpose it.
Okay.
So there's that. Obviously, take your double blue for Robo Arm. I'm going to give you 1 more blue because Dr. Shit, what's her name going to be? Laura, what's the doctor's name?
Cleaver.
Dr. Cleaver, which is also a hereditary name because there's only one Cleaver and it's mostly used for amputations. Dr. Cleaver clearly keeps a pretty clean house. So she's kept it, even though it's not in working order, it's still like you're surprised to find it's oiled. There's no dirt on it. It's just non-functional. And then I'm going to give you 1 setback dice because this is ancient tech compared to what you're used to looking at.
Okay. Just want to see if I get anything for repairing. It's repairing a vehicle, so we won't apply that.
I'll let you apply that.
Okay, so I'm using my resourceful mechanic.
Yeah, if there's ever been a time for a resourceful mechanic, I feel like fixing ancient medical tech to save your sister's life is probably...
So the way it translates is you repair 1 additional system strain or hull trauma per rank in this skill. So I don't know if you want to, in this case, just infer that as 1 success added to whatever the total is, or
yes,
an advantage, or...
how many... What's your pool looking like right now?
My pool right now is 3 yellow, 3 purple, 3 blue.
Okay, then we'll count it as 1 extra success. I was going to give you an upgrade from a yellow to, or green to a yellow, but you're out of green, so yeah. We'll go with that. Okay. Or actually, let's add 1 green.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready to roll.
Okay, go ahead.
Man, even with the odds stacked in my favor, only 1 success, 6 advantages.
Damn.
I had 4 failures, and they all had to get wiped out, and I was left with 1 success after.
I mean, that still does mean you succeed at your action. Like it's
just
by
like
degrees. I know.
And sometimes you think you're in the clear, but only this much.
But your small success was so efficient.
Yeah.
Okay, Tyler, I'll tell you what. If
My small success was plugging it back in. There was actually nothing wrong with it.
The advantage is you save so much time.
Yeah.
If you're willing, I'll say get it up, back up and running. If you're willing to spend 4 strain, I'll say it's up and running in like peak condition. If you don't, it's still good. It just won't add as much of an advantage to Doc Cleaver's medicine check.
I've already added the 4 strain.
Rock and roll. So to Ryan's point about plugging it back in, you get it up and running, but like it's running on essentially like if these were batteries from the late 90s, early 2000s, and they had weird strips on the side that would tell you how much power was left in them that never really worked.
Yeah.
You can tell that these batteries are functional but low because there just isn't power in this building. Everything's fire. Mm-hmm. So I think you jack in and it's essentially using your body as a battery to just give this thing the extra boost.
Okay.
And you notice Doc Cleaver give you like a very appraising look, like she's kind of made a decision about you, and she's impressed. And then she yells to the 2 people in Hawaiian shirts to like wheel the machine closer. As your eyes, I think, kind of like flicker back up into your head as you're basically letting it sap you. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, like the diagnostics come up. And you see her eyes just go wide and go, by the Emperor, the things we can do with this much information. And she's going to go to work on Lyric. So Lyric, in kind of this weird space you're drifting in and out of, a man approaches. And he is... think like an early 90s Howie Mandel type. So like kind of big
Okay.
frizzy hair, generally pleasant looking, but also just like his eyes are like a little manic. And he's doing the Mark Ruffalo thing from Avengers, where he's just kind of like running his hands along his arms. And he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt naturally, and he just says, "Oh, who are you?"
What the fuck do you care?
He seems to consider that for a minute, and he's like, "Well, it's not a bad question, actually. It's just, I haven't seen anyone else, in here since I was a kid."
In where? I look around me. Like, what else is there?
I mean, again, you're in this weird kind of like drifting in and out space.
Yeah.
It's like in D&D, we often not in actual D&D, but like in our D&D, we call this like the Mind Palace a lot. But like it really is kind of like that weird liminal, like fucking Stranger Things upside down, when 11 is in the tube space where it's just like pure black, stark light. If Brian Fuller was directing it, it's cool. It's where he goes to have his designs, etc.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he's like, well, it's just I'm the only one like me here. At least.
What do you mean like you? What do you like?
Well, with the sight, you've got the sight. You can see this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've you've got powers. Welcome to the club. It sucks.
Wait. I thought I just like get to see the future maybe or something.
I mean, that
The
can
fuck
be
is
part
this?
of it. Well, it's hard to explain. Look, I only know what's been told to me, and you probably don't know where you are because you're. I mean, are you awake? Are you dead? Who are you?
I'm like half and half.
Oh, that sucks. That really sucks. I'm sorry. Death kind of icks me out though, so I think I'm gonna go. But like, if you wake up, you should find me.
Wait, what's your name?
My name's Heinrich, the Seer. Good luck, I guess. If you see my aunt, tell her I miss her.
Well, who the fuck's your aunt?
And then he just disappears.
Fucking give me enough fucking information.
Alto, you're shocked to hear Lyric say this out loud. And as you kind of rush to her side, you see kind of her eyes start to flutter open a little bit.
Lyric, it's Alto. Can you hear me?
Can I?
You can.
It's like, yeah, no fucking thanks to you and that fucking idiot.
Oh, she's back.
And for a moment, all is right in the world. And that's when Doc Cleaver brings her namesake down on your leg.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Alto, Laura Elizabeth at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Lyric, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited by Ryan LaPlante, and the Valentyne Heresy's show logo was created by Decapitated Markers at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, provided by freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, DM Rob, Christopher Little, Olin Anderson, Sue One, Devin Boyce, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Anthony Griffin, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.